Why did no one know until now? Why was Jimin's name missing from the routine health updates? Why did Taehyung, dressed in a plain black hoodie with his head bowed, visit the hospital past midnight without alerting even his closest staff? Why didn't Jungkook come with him? These are the questions that flooded fan forums, social media, and private Weverse groups when news broke that Kim Taehyung V of BTS had been spotted entering a military hospital's rear entrance in silence, without security, and with eyes visibly red, in the middle of the night. A blurry photo captured him clutching something close to his chest. No one knew what it was, not until later. Not until someone from inside the hospital whispered 3 words that sent the fandom into panic. "He's seeing Jimin." No announcement had been made about Park Jimin's condition. There was no official record of him being transported from the training barracks. But that didn't mean it hadn't happened. In fact, it had. Quietly, desperately, secretly, and perhaps heartbreakingly, too late to know what really happened to Jimin. And why did Taehyung look like he hadn't slept in days? The truth, as it slowly unraveled from behind the strict veil of military confidentiality, painted a picture far more emotional than fans could have imagined. The silent collapse. Jimin, known for his strength masked in softness, had been excelling in his physical training. According to one of the training officers who spoke anonymously, he never asked to rest. Not once. He pushed himself harder than anyone. It was like he was trying to prove something. Maybe to himself. The officer described how Jimin, during a particularly grueling week, had volunteered for every extra drill. Even when we told him to take it easy, he smiled and said, "I can do more." But the human body has limits, even for someone as resilient as Jimin. By the end of that week, something shifted. He was slower, another soldier said. Not physically, emotionally. His voice was quieter. He didn't laugh as much. He stared a lot, like he was somewhere else. And then during a final endurance test, Jimin collapsed. He wasn't unconscious, not fully. But he was disoriented, drenched in sweat, trembling uncontrollably, and unable to respond clearly to questions. Medics were rushed in. He was moved to the infirmary. And after a few hours, a silent order came. Transfer him to the military hospital in the next city. What followed next was a silence that screamed louder than any official statement. Days passed. The fandom noticed Jimin's absence but assumed it was just scheduled leave or routine rest. No one expected that behind the hospital doors, Jimin lay hooked to an 4-drip, barely speaking, his lips cracked, his voice hoarse from dehydration. The letter Taehyung never expected. Taehyung found out not through a press release, not through official channels, but through a letter. Not just any letter. A letter left behind by Jimin in his bunk before he collapsed. A letter Taehyung received 3 days later, forwarded discreetly by a fellow soldier with shaking hands. The content of the letter remained sealed, except for one quoted sentence now echoing through the fandom. "If I close my eyes and don't wake up, please don't blame anyone." That was when Taehyung stopped smiling. Those who trained with him said he grew unusually quiet. He stopped singing under his breath during drills. He skipped dinner. He stared into the sky at night, even when it rained. And then he left, unannounced, using special leave rights. Just one bag. Just one reason to see him. Inside the hospital room, sources inside the hospital confirmed that when Taehyung arrived, Jimin was awake, barely. The room was dimly lit. Nurses were asked to step out. No staff was present for the first 20 minutes of the visit. What was said between them remains unconfirmed. But one staff member who passed the room said she heard a voice breaking. "I didn't know. I didn't know it got this bad." And Jimin's whisper in return, "You weren't supposed to." When Taehyung finally stepped out of the room, his hands were trembling. He held a small folded letter, a different one he had just been given. The nurses say his eyes were wet, not crying, just full, heavy, silent. That he didn't speak to anyone on his way out. He simply pressed the letter to his chest and walked away. But that wasn't the end. The clue everyone missed. A fan who had worked previously in logistics for military events noticed something curious in recent documents. An unexplained delay in Jimin's training rotation logs. The delay was signed off not by medical staff but by psychological counselors. This changed everything. Fans began to theorize that Jimin hadn't just collapsed physically, but emotionally. That his exhaustion had reached a level where even his mind needed time to rest. That this visit from Taehyung wasn't just about physical recovery, it was about emotional rescue. And then came the surprise that shook everyone. Jungkook's silence speaks volumes. Why wasn't Jungkook there? He had trained alongside both Taehyung and Jimin. He was known to be close to them, especially to Jimin. His absence confused fans. But then came a voice note leak, confirmed to be from Jungkook's private journaling session, recorded weeks before the incident. In it, he said, "Sometimes I see Jimin pushing himself too far and I want to stop him. But he smiles at me and I trust him. Maybe too much." That voice note ended with silence, and then a choked breath, like someone swallowing a scream. When this surfaced, the fandom exploded. Had Jungkook seen the warning signs? Was his silence now a mark of guilt? A message hidden in Taehyung's music notebook, but it was what Taehyung did after the visit that left everyone breathless. A week after visiting Jimin, Taehyung returned to his camp. He didn't post anything, didn't update his SNS. But one of his music staff, anonymously, shared a photograph of a page in Taehyung's songwriting notebook. Scribbled in the margins were lyrics that said, "He smiled through pain / and I didn't see / until his silence / began screaming for me." Fans recognized the reference immediately. He wasn't writing a love song. He was writing a regret. And a promise. Will Jimin return? That is the question on every fan's lips now. According to recent internal updates, Jimin's condition has stabilized. He is speaking again, eating small meals, but he is still under observation, and he has not yet been cleared to return to physical training. Taehyung has requested no further comments be made until Jimin himself is ready to speak. And yet, just 2 nights ago, a staff member posted a cryptic message on a locked account believed to be associated with the BTS team. "The flowers by his bed are blooming. So is he." Was that message about Jimin? Or about Taehyung, who has since returned to writing music in the dead of night, alone? The fandom reacts. Fans across the globe have been organizing candlelight tributes, sending messages of hope, and sharing art, letters, and even poetry dedicated to Jimin's recovery and Taehyung's quiet devotion. Armies have been posting using hashtags like #ComebackStrongerJimin and #ThankYouTaehyung, turning grief into unity. Some fans say they cried reading what little was revealed about Jimin's letter. Others say Taehyung's visit reminded them of why they fell in love with BTS, not just for their music, but for their heart. A bond beyond military walls. As Jimin heals behind guarded hospital doors and Taehyung walks silently through the halls of his base, one truth is now clearer than ever. Their bond, forged long before uniforms and salutes, is unbreakable. And though the nation may salute their discipline, the world salutes their love. Why was Jimin hiding his struggles? One might ask, how could a soldier like Jimin, known for his openness, his tenderness, his affection for his members, hide his suffering? The answer lies in what an anonymous counselor at the hospital later revealed. Some of the kindest people don't speak when they suffer. They don't want to become a burden. Jimin never once said he was in pain. But his eyes told me everything. According to this counselor, Jimin had been referred to mental health services days before the collapse. Not because of any erratic behavior, but because one of his commanding officers grew concerned about the way he always offered to help others, even when limping, even when coughing, even when shivering. He didn't want anyone to know he wasn't okay, said the counselor. He thought it would make him weak. And so, Jimin fell not because he was weak but because he had carried too much for too long.